All right, everybody, welcome to Dad Talk today. I am pleased to have a special guest with us today. His name is Dr. Mark Roseman. He is a child custody expert, a contributing writer at the Huffington Post, family life educator at the Toby Center, and the author of the new book, Preserving Family Ties, Guide to Understanding Divorce and Child Custody. Dr. Mark, thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your research and the things that you are doing with this book and some of the things that it details?
Thank you. This book was a 6-year project, and it was written to provide parents and attorneys, family attorneys, and guardian ad litems, and judges and policymakers a common understanding of what happens to children when child custody decisions are made and the effects that they have if those decisions, if those court orders, if the agreements do not reflect what is truly in the best interests of children. It's the research that speaks, and I am the book, and as author, I am acting as a conduit for this very important information that must be understood, must be heard. So, with that information, with an understanding of what happens to children, both what is important to affect a positive result and to help them thrive, and also what is going to harm children. This is all supported by the research, and it's the research which has allowed me to help direct all those constituents that I've mentioned to really have a greater understanding and a consciousness about what they're doing in child custody matters.
Gotcha. So as we know, there's a lot of progress to be made when it comes to child custody. And, I'm a part of the father's rights movement. A lot of us are out there asking for, 50-50 child custody as it relates to this matter. And some of the hurdles that we're having to go through as fathers, it's just ridiculous to be in our child's life. Can you speak to some of the importance of, as you're going through a divorce, of course, us as couples, we've got bitterness. There's a reason that the breakup is happening. What are some of the things that you've seen, that typically happens that is very damaging to a child that a divorcing parent might really need to keep in mind?
The primary message that a lot of if you synthesize the research, if you look at even state statutes that have been adapted and adopted over the last 25 years, it says putting the child first. And the important message is that in order to put the child first, you need to be mindful as parents of each other and each other's roles and the vital roles that both parents have in raising their child. And I would think that, and I see you, in agreement with that, Eric. But that's what the research tells us. And as parents, and especially within this 30% of us who are products of what are called high conflict divorce, it's been a term that at least is a label. And I do not like labels, but it makes things easier to refer. But that characterizes the high conflict, where at least one of the parents is unwilling, will block a child, will brainwash the child, will alienate and push away a parent, and vilify them, and to have feelings towards another parent in this way is okay. We're entitled to feel what we want, to think what we want. But when we bring those emotions to bear, when we bring that our own personal sense of perception about the other parent into the child's face, is cruel, and it is abusive, and that's what Childress argues. But nobody does not argue that is not abuse. It is abuse, and must
Absolutely.
be treated that way.
Yes, sir. Some of the cases I've been reading up, it's been more of divorcing parents, which of course that's what's happening. But I think anytime that somebody's in a relationship and there is a nasty breakup where one parent is harboring that bitterness towards that other parent, that's when parental alienation starts to sink in. Even for couples where a baby is involved, the more they can keep that other parent out of their life, the easier that story to tell that child later of the absence of that father, because that father has got to go through these hurdles to get there. And sometimes a lot of us fathers can't afford that in court. So time goes by, and they will not allow us into our children's life. And it is so important, I think, that the courts recognize this, because there are a lot of us fathers out there saying, hey, we want to be there, we just can't. um, yeah, could you maybe give our listeners a little bit about the parental alienation dynamics and some of the ways to spot it and some of the things that we could do to try to curb um, how much is happening right now?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And I wanted to reflect on a couple of points that you were making, though, and for fathers, for moms that feel isolated and blocked out of their children's lives and feel that the courts are not listening and they have stopped going to court, I'd say stop temporarily, gather your strength, do your homework, get some emotional support, see a therapist, develop your friendship network, develop your collaborative network with others who are like-minded as yourself. Uh, Learn what has been successful for other parents in the legal system, in the court process, and and create a business plan that is your plan in court. Using an attorney, number one, is very costly. Number two, you do not know, you do, in spite of what attorneys may tell you, you do not know how they really feel or how they will represent you and the case. Um, and attorneys are necessary because it's a minefield in court. It's an expensive process. But I think the more that you learn from others who have been successful in representing themselves and also have worked successfully with attorneys, you will be able to create some kind of strategy, some roadmap that may be helpful to yourself, and give yourself time to do that. It's very easily to be frustrated. World War II took 5 years, 5 years at great cost and much education, because there was a need to collaborate among the allies to uh, uh, manufacture the tools that are needed, the weaponry, the supply chains. This was, and it took 5 years to defeat a monster. We have a monster. That monster is family court. Think of what you need to give yourself strength. Now, I want to get back to your question, and I'm going to ask you to repeat it.
No, I mean that was perfect. I think for somebody that's ever been through parental alienation, a lot of times not being
Oh,
in their.
and recognizing it.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. Oh, pardon, Eric. Can I just respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I I woke up this morning. I was thinking about you, Eric, and I was thinking about what are important. Where are we now in the status of the American family, and particularly in family litigation? And what is happening to that 30%, that population who splits, whether they're married or not? The numbers are true. 30% of families of parents who split are this highly uh, conflicted uh, individuals, having great difficulty in communicating or not wanting to permit the other parent to remain involved in their children's lives. So, how do we respond to what is parental alienation? I will tell you what it is. It's observable. Forget about, I'm a trained therapist, but I'll tell you, forget about the labels of narcissism and of bipolar. Those are labels. The hell with labels. You know what you need to do? Look at the behavior. A policeman doesn't stop a attempted murder or or break-in or theft. They don't stop to ask, oh, why is this being done? What precipitated this behavior? They stop the behavior. You stop the behavior first, and then you begin to identify and require that there be assessments, that there be forensic evaluations, that there would be treatment. But you must stop the behavior. And anyone who vilifies a child against the other parent, and it's evident to the court that a parent is doing that, the motivation doesn't have to be understood at first, but it's the observation. If that is happening, it must stop. And Dr. Richard Gardner said, if you want to stop it, you need to demand that the custodial parent who is doing this, number one, is warned, number two, fined, number three, threatened with house arrest, and number four, loses custody of the child. And I would argue that if you look at the order of those realistic, very important solutions, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that the behavior must be stopped. And so any effort to alienate a child against the other parent, against extended family, the courts forget about extended family, the importance of grandparents, aunts and uncles and cousins. They don't care about that. Those points of family do not come readily into the courtroom. And I would argue that a child is a product of two families that have histories. and those relationships must be preserved. And when I wrote the book, Preserving Family Ties, I was not just looking at moms and dads. I was looking at the families that are involved that gave rise to each mom and parent, and we must look at that context. But it's behavior that must be controlled. It must be stopped. And parental alienation is at any time that it's found that a parent is alienating a child. Now, when a child, may I continue a moment?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Oh, okay, thank you. When a child is expressing hatred and objecting to spending time with one parent, it does not mean that the custodial parent has been planting those seeds, does not mean that the child has heard any conscious or even unconscious effort to alienate that child. It may also be the child's own frustration and anger that a parent who is absent from the household is now gone from the household. So that child really needs assistance, therapeutic assistance, and also based on the age of the child, and all children need physical contact, relationships with both parents, but sometimes children are what are called estranged by the absent parent. And it's not what the absent parent has done. In Florida, we call a parent who is absent from the household when a parent splits, when a family splits. They're referred to as an absent parent. I think it's a disgusting label. It's a terrible thing to say, to tell anyone. And then the parent who is raising the child in Florida is referred to as the at-home parent. I think both are totally inappropriate uses of words, and words can punish. But again, a child's relationship, a child's feelings towards a parent who is not living with them is not always a result of what the custodial parent may be saying or doing to encourage that. But the custodial parent has a responsibility in helping the child understand why they feel this way, and helping the child understand that, you know what, it is okay to love the parent that is out of the home. We came together when we had you. So how can you not want to improve your child's outcome when you separate? You must incorporate these thoughts of the child. Let the child know that there's safety and there's love that both parties have, that both parents have.
Yes, sir. I want to go back to something that you said really early on about taking your time. If you've ever been through parental alienation and, not being able to see your child, it puts this unbelievable guilt on you. But you got to understand, it's not by your choice. And sometimes you can fight and you can fight, and eventually you just run out of gas, and then that guilt sets in even more. Give yourself some time. It takes a while to get a plan together, guys. It's not going to happen overnight. We know you want it to happen overnight, and we know you want to see your child, but it's most of the time. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not going to happen, and sometimes this takes years and years for parents to overcome, and the battle going back and forth between that custodial parent. I mean, it can make you feel like you're walking on eggshells, and yes, it's not just about narcissism. I mean, that's the labels that are being thrown around with parental alienation right now. There's no one size fits all, but I mean, at the heart of it all, I believe is that bitterness, and it's not going anywhere.
It,
You
it,
can, go ahead. Yes, sir.
oh no, you are absolutely right. All your points are correct and true and well taken. And I speak, not only having been in the field for over 20 years, but also as a targeted parent. I haven't seen my oldest child in 22 years. I haven't seen my middle child except for 3 years within this period of time, and my youngest I saw for 3 days out of 22 years. So I've walked this very, very tragic journey that many are experiencing. And I fought in court for 5 years after I dismissed my attorney, who really did not get it. But it was at a time when the courts did not get anything, but they knew that there was something afoot, because as the rate of divorce increased and as the rates of high conflict uh, uh, situations became ever present in the courtroom on a daily basis, it was clear that there need to be issues to be addressed. And uh, it's not that the bar associations or other professional law associations or we talk about frequently the APA, American Psychological Association, or other professional associations, but the issues of parental alienation, of children being faced with uh, with witness to the parents' conflict, are also the subject of studies being done increasingly around the world by faculty and researchers and professionals. What we are experiencing in this country, as many of you may know, is not unique to the United States. It's happening all over the Western world, and the numbers are the same. And sadly, in UK, it appears to me even worse. But that's a political matter. Uh, in this country, every state has its own set of laws. In other countries, they have national laws and they have more national policy. Not so in this country, but we need a national policy in this country that says alienating a child against the other parent is criminal, it is unacceptable, and it must be stopped. And if that message can come through political leadership, then I think we'll see more changes being happened on a local level.
Dr. Roseman, I couldn't agree more. I want to thank you for your time. I don't want to keep you away from what you got going on too long, but tell everybody about where they can find your book, Preserving Family Ties.
Thank you. I thank you very much. I would say you go to your nearest Barnes and Noble. I've been blessed that they've accepted the book nationally. It's distributed internationally, but go to Barnes and Noble, grab a coffee, grab the book off the shelf. If they don't have it, ask them to order a few copies, and just sit down with it. You don't have to buy it, but bring a notepad. But it's available at Barnes and Noble. It's also available on Amazon. Uh, and also from the publisher Westbow Press. But I really would welcome feedback. If people would like to reach out to me, I certainly welcome that. As you had, Eric, and I'm grateful for that. You can find me on Facebook. You can PM me. You can email me at the following address: mark.roseman, Roseman, mark.roseman at markdavidroseman.com. I have weekly show, if I may add, Eric,
Yes, sir.
on Sundays, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, on Preserving Family Ties Facebook page. I'm not great with technology. Sometimes we have a little late start, but I think the meat and potatoes over the last 9 months have been really helpful, as I've heard from many, and I welcome you all. But it's a pleasure to be here, and I would look forward to more conversations as you may find helpful, Eric. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yes, sir, and thank you. And on behalf of fathers, I think across the world, we want to thank you for your research and all your knowledge that you're putting through. And with what we got going on, I mean, we hear you, and it means the world to us.
Well, bless you all. And united we have strength. United we have strength. Do not be alone. My mentor, if I may add, David Levy, who really helped bring joint custody to 30 states. And I was with him. I'm going to be honoring him in Philadelphia at the PASG conference, Parental Alienation Study Group conference. He always reminded me when I was on the phone or speaking, always tell people you cannot do this alone. Find support. And if there's no support group, start one. And you know what? You can each do that. Reach out to somebody and say, hey, I need to talk. Or if you know someone who's having difficulties, as you can understand them, say, you need to talk, let's grab a coffee. Grow it, make a support group, and you'll feel so much better. I promise.
Dr. Roseman, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you again sometime soon on the podcast.
My pleasure. All the best. All the best.